Hey guys, you're going to be in Matthew 8, verses 28 through 34, finishing up Matthew 8 this morning. So go ahead and read it, and then come back. So when was the last time that you've heard a sermon, or a Sunday school lesson, or a youth lesson on demons? You know, I don't think in the 2 years that I've been here that I've done one on it. And demons are just not something that we talk about too much anymore. I think we somewhat see demonic activity and possessions as something of the past. And yet, from accounts that I've heard from many different missionaries that I've known personally in my life, they tell me that this is not the case. You know, I think in our world, in our America, I think Satan has enough power in the hearts and minds of enough people that he doesn't have to send his demons to do that work for him. But these missionaries say that overseas in underdeveloped countries, they see demon possession happening in people pretty much in the same way that the Bible describes it happening way back 2,000 years ago. And I'm kind of inclined to believe them. They're the type of people that don't really exaggerate or make those things up. And so demons are then, and if we've never talked about this before either maybe, but demons are angels that followed Satan in his rebellion, and now they're tools that Satan uses for his purpose of stealing, killing, and destroying all that's good. But there are a few things about demons that are important to know. You know, the movies make them seem like they're something that can be anywhere at any time and have some supernatural powers, but demons are not omnipresent, which means they cannot be everywhere all at once like God can. They are not all powerful, and as we'll see, they certainly don't have power over God. And so here in this passage, Jesus comes across two demon-possessed men. And between this account and the parallel one in Mark chapter 5, we find that these two men, they're absolutely terrifying. They look terrifying, they act terrifying, they're super strong, they're unable to be harmed or stopped by conventional means. And Mark's account even says that there was one of the demon-possessed men who he was constantly just dragging sharp rocks across his skin so that his blood would always be flowing. And yet, this didn't kill him. And so you would imagine if you ran across these guys, they would be pretty terrifying to see. Jesus sees these two poor men, and he sees they're being constantly tortured by the demons within, and he knows that he has to set them free. And so as Jesus comes up to these men, the demons instantly recognize who Jesus is, and they know that he has power and authority over them. And so instead of allowing them to leave these two men and go into some other people, Jesus sends them off into a herd of pigs. And the demons going into these pigs cause the whole flock or the whole group of pigs to go into chaos, and they end up running them off of a cliff into the ocean where they drowned. Mark records that records two different responses. We pretty much just get one response from here in Matthew, but Mark says that the demon-possessed man, they of course respond pretty well. They've just been healed from an absolute nightmare, and so they go off and they're telling everyone about what Jesus has done for them. But then the pig herders and the townspeople, they respond pretty insanely, in my opinion. They end up running Jesus out of town for his part in the destruction of their herd of pigs. And so, as I look at this passage, I see a few key takeaways from it. The very first one is this passage tells us about Satan's purpose. Satan operates best by trying to make sin look like it's good, by making it seem as if he's kind of looking out for us and helping us move past God's restrictive hold on our life, or he tries to lie and tell us that God doesn't want us to enjoy life, and that he tries to tell us that that's what sin is, the little fun parts of life. And we see he does this exact same thing with the very first sin, with Eve in the Garden of Eden. He goes to her and he says, hey Eve, don't listen to God. He just doesn't want you to be like him. He's trying to keep the best of things away from you. And so he successfully tempts Eve into the very first sin. But these demon-possessed men, give us a pretty pristine look at what it would look like in our lives if Satan had complete control. These men were living in an unimaginable, constant torment due to the power of Satan in their lives. So don't believe for a second the lies of Satan when he tells you that when he calls something good, that God has said is evil or wicked or bad. Because Satan's only objective is to steal, kill, and destroy all the goodness that God has given us. Secondly, I think this verse or these passages show us a lot about the heart of men. I mean, notice that the majority of the people here were more concerned about the lost prophet from the herd of the pigs dying than they were about the salvation and the healing of the two demon-possessed men. Kind of makes it a little more understandable why fewer people followed Jesus if their hearts were so far away from their fellow man that they cared more about profit than life. Doesn't sound too different from today, does it? Third, it affirms that Christians cannot be possessed by demons. So these demons, when they were in the presence of Christ, they knew that they could not exist and hold power in his presence, because where God is, evil and sin cannot be. The Bible tells us that God cannot tolerate wickedness, evil, those kinds of things in his presence. And so wherever Jesus was, those demons could not be. So as he heals these men, they can no longer reside there. And the Bible tells us that at the moment of our salvation, God's Holy Spirit enters into us and indwells with us. Our body literally becomes the temple of God, and we have the Godhead, the Trinity. We have Jesus in our hearts, as the old children's church saying goes. And so Satan nor any of his demons can exist where God indwells, and thus believers are safe from possession. So, hope you've enjoyed this. I know it's a little different than what we normally talk about, but it's good to know all about all of the scriptures. A little bit of demonology there for you on your Thursday.